What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Relationships Made Simple for Men podcast with me, Bryce Bauer. Today, I'm going to be talking about why men don't ask for help. This is actually a really easy one for me to talk about because I've worked with a lot of men that are resistant to help, and I have a PhD in resisting help. That was my go-to strategy for a long time. And after overcoming some of the hurdles and really looking at this honestly, I know what stops men from getting help. And I'm going to make this really simple to understand because that's what I'm good at. I'm good at distilling information so that it makes sense. And when I'm talking about help, I mean specifically emotional help. Guys might not have an issue asking for help with fixing their car or making more money or hiring childcare. But those are more physical things, more physical problems, and not emotional problems. They're not internal problems. So the first reason why men resist help is they don't see the need. If you're in a long-term committed partnership, the mantra is we're fine. I don't see the problem. Yeah, we fight sometimes, or yeah, we're kind of roommates, but what's the big deal? Many men can get by on very little connection. Of course, a lot of men still want to have sex, but as far as emotional connection goes, they can get by. So if they're kind of living their separate lives and their wife or partner is living their own life, and maybe they do some fun things once in a while, to them, that's enough. And if their partner brings up the idea of them getting help, they have no way to see it. It's just a major blind spot. Even if they have major trauma in their past, or they're depressed, or they have a drinking problem, or they're unhappy at their job, or they feel really anxious. Men, to their credit, including myself, can compartmentalize that and just not think about it. I don't know if that's how our brains work, but we can literally put that on the shelf and not give it much attention. And so in a lot of men's minds, they are fine. The problem is that when you have undealt with emotional experiences, or you're really high strung or irritable or depressed and your attitude's not great, you're really just not being your authentic self, you don't feel free, and you're not being kind to yourself, or you don't have the presence to really appreciate and attune to your partner, that poisons the relational ecosystem. It starts to be not fun, not connecting to hang out with you. Because although you do your best to hide it, our partners can feel when there's something going on with us. Even when we say we're fine, they don't believe us. And they're right. We're being dishonest and they can sense that something's off. And the more you deny this and gaslight them, the worse it gets. And often where men struggle is that they're only thinking self-focused. Well, how's this going to benefit me? They're not thinking about the us. They're not thinking about how them doing their own personal, emotional development work is going to benefit their partner or their children. And I'll give you a metaphor to think about. So hopefully this can make sense because a lot of men think that not being able to feel pain and pushing the pain to the side is a good thing. And it can be in some ways. There's obviously a case to be made for resiliency at times, setting aside your feelings and getting things done. But this metaphor will highlight the problem. So when people are climbing really tall mountains like Mount Everest, they're exposed to really cold temperatures. And one of the dangers is that they may experience hypothermia. And even though that sounds really painful, the experience of hypothermia, when you get into the later stages of it, it's actually quite comfortable. People stop feeling cold. They are no longer feeling the pain. They might even begin to take some of their gear off in response to the numbness. And as you know, that makes things worse. Then you get colder and then you die. So if you're climbing a really tall mountain like this, you need to be able to feel the pain so that you can know what to attend to. If your fingers are getting really cold, you know to warm them up so they don't freeze and fall off. And I see men doing this with their own emotions. They go into a place of numbness and they don't want to feel the pain. And a part of them begins to wither and die, or the relationship starts to stagnate. And that can be a really dangerous thing. Women initiate 2/3 of divorces. And I think that's because they feel the pain before their partner does. And by the time they feel enough pain to where they're done, the man is late to the game and it's over. Even if there's something he could have done, it's too late. That's my theory on why that happens. Another reason why men don't see the need is because they don't prioritize emotional growth in their lives. So if you don't prioritize emotional growth in your life, there's nothing I can really say to you that's going to convince you because it's a low priority. So until men move this up to the very top of their priority list, there's not much we can do. As men, we have to work to see the value. We have to ask questions and think about how this is going to play out, honestly. Whatever we don't deal with, people in our lives are going to have to deal with through us. It doesn't just go away. Long-term compartmentalization of our pain and our feelings just doesn't work. And a lot of you have fathers in your life who did that and you saw the consequences. Maybe you never saw them cry. Maybe they were rageaholics or workaholics or alcoholics. Maybe you never really felt connected with them and you still don't. That's what happens when you don't do this work. And our fathers and grandfathers might not have had the resources that we do now. They might not have even known that it was possible, but you do. So that's the first reason why I think men don't ask for help is they don't see the need. The second reason that men don't ask for help is that they don't think it will work. I've heard this phrase multiple times when I do a first session with a couple, and the man says, I don't see why we would pay to fight in front of somebody. And it's kind of funny because, yeah, that's true. Why would you do that? But I get where the question is coming from. It's that I don't think I'm going to have the presence of mind to do anything different in the presence of a professional. And I don't think they're going to be able to interject or help. So why do it in the first place? And this can be valid because if you've had experiences where you went into therapy or coaching and the professional didn't really jump in and they sat back, maybe they were afraid or they were just playing it passive or they didn't want to take sides and you really didn't feel like it helped and it just made things worse. I can see why you'd have that idea. But a good helper should be able to interject, point out things you're not seeing, challenge you, and ask those deeper questions or provide those skills that are going to benefit you in your relationship. So sometimes you do have to bounce around and find someone that's going to be a good fit for you, but don't give up after one or two people if you really want to make this work. And I will challenge you in saying that if you've been through 3, 4, 5 counselors and you don't think anyone's helping, you might be the common denominator. You might not realize that you are resisting the help because some of you guys are not easy to help. I know this firsthand. You come in, you talk a lot, you think you know everything, you lay out the problem, you lay out your solutions, you make excuses for why you're not able to do the things that I'm suggesting. You're not very open-minded, and it is really hard to help someone that is like that. And granted, this is a very small percentage of the guys that I work with. It's maybe like 10 to 20 that are really hard to help. And I'm usually pretty good at getting there at some point. But I just want to put that on your radar because some people think as clients that I'm going to go in and you're just going to help me. You're going to give me this magical thing that will help my life. And I can just sit back and not do anything. And that's not the case. Being in this seat, I see myself as a personal trainer. I can tell you what to do, what to try, but I need information from you. I need collaboration. I need you to go try to do this work and come back and tell me where you're getting stuck with an open mind and to really take it seriously. It's no coincidence that these 10 to 20% of guys that are really hard to help also rarely do the homework that I give them. So of course it's not going to work. If you didn't make it a priority to meditate or try this communication practice or commit to not losing your shit for 2 weeks, no matter what, then yeah, I don't think it's going to work for you. I'm not going to be able to help you. But that's really because you're not able to help yourself. I also realize that there are ways in which I might be limited and not able to help someone who really wants to help. I'm sure there have been cases like that. And that's why I'm continuing to learn and grow in my capacity as a leader and a coach. I don't want to give the impression that it's all about the clients. This work is constantly highlighting ways in which I have to grow. Now, if you're an individual going in to get help and you don't think it will work, a lot of times that's coming from some sense of shame, and it might be really deep down and hard to access, but some people are really good at hiding their shame. And what shame says is, I'm not worth being helped. No one can help me. I'm a lost cause. I'm fucked up fundamentally. And if you believe that on some level, you will develop strategies to resist help and set yourself up for failure and sabotage your own work because you really don't believe that you're worth having a loving, healthy, secure relationship with yourself or anyone else. And we could say that at the core of any man being really hard to help or not wanting to get help, this probably is the core. And this is really sad. This is something that I think all people have to work through on some level. is building our capacity to receive help and feel worthy of help. Through my years of doing this work, I think this is part of the human condition. And that's why I see people outsourcing some of their own internal worth or power to religions or other leaders or their job or their kids. It's like, because I don't think that I am worthy, I will do something to prove my worth, raise good kids, have a lot of money, accomplish a lot of things in my life. And although those can be manifestations of us feeling more worth, they aren't the worth itself. That's inherent. That comes with just being born into this world. And we have to look for ways in which maybe we're attaching our worth to what we do and not just who we are. And so anytime I work with a man, this is one of the places we have to go. How worthy do you really feel in yourself as an individual to be able to have the things that you want in your life and to feel good about yourself? That's really what's at the core. And when two people can be doing that together, granted, I think this is really hard to do, you become a powerful force. But even if you're doing this as an individual, it is worth the work and you are worth the work. And it's not your fault that you feel this way sometimes. There's no such thing as a perfect parent. Life is not perfect. Life is not fair. But I really do think life is here to wake us up and help us. And that's why these challenges are placed in front of us. And for a lot of people, that's long-term partnership. The third reason why I think men don't ask for help is grandiosity. Some men grow up without really being challenged or being conditioned to always be right, to always inflate ourselves, to show power. And although this might be helpful in business or sales or making money, it's not good for relationships. True intimacy happens when there's equality in the relationship. So if you're constantly inflating yourself, thinking you know best, putting your partner down, blaming them for problems, not taking accountability, it's going to feel imbalanced. And the interesting thing is that if you're in a grandiose one-up position, often you don't want it to change because you're feeling less of the pain. You have more of the power. You might feel like you're the one who can bail if things don't work out and you won't feel much about it. And this can be really hard to work with. Grandiose men are really hard to work with. They think that they can figure it out on their own, that everyone else is the problem, and they've developed really good strategies to protect themselves from criticism or self-reflection. And this can look a few different ways. I'm thinking about there are grandiose men that are very aggressive. I mean, you can see it on their face. They just look confrontational, kind of mean and intimidating. And then there are the types that are more charming and manipulative, and their dark side doesn't really come out unless they're challenged. That's when they get mean. Maybe out in the world, they're the nice guy, but at home, they're total assholes. And the reality is that men in a grandiose position are probably not going to reach out for help. They're okay with burning it all down. And if you're a woman listening to this and you think that you're with a grandiose man, I'd probably run. If they don't have the ability to feel pain, to admit when they're wrong, to ask for help in any way, if you feel you're being manipulated, you feel really, really small and scared in your relationship, it's probably not going to change unless you take a big stand. And sometimes that means saying, I'm going to leave this relationship if you don't get some help. And you need to find someone to help. I mean, really, they need to find someone to help that's going to understand the power dynamics and be able to call out the grandiosity. And I'm talking about more extreme versions of this. I tend to go into a one-up position, but it's more subtle in my relationship with Jenny. And I've really had to work to humble myself and see when I'm in that place. But I'm very aware of this and constantly working on it. If your man has zero abilities, he needs to get help quick because this is probably going to really wear on you. And if you find yourself relating with this as a man, granted, I don't know if a grandiose man would even listen this far into my podcast, but if for some reason you're out there, you need to find someone who can really challenge you and help bring you down, to ground you, to open your eyes, to wake you up, because you probably aren't going to create much intimacy in your relationships, but you could also keep going on as you are. And that's okay too. Some people don't really value intimacy, and that's fine. The fourth and final reason why men don't ask for help is that they're scared. And sometimes they'll say it and sometimes they won't. It can be really, really scary to ask for emotional help if you've been let down in the past, if no one has really ever been a safe space for you, if you already feel bad about yourself and you think you're going to feel worse just by asking for help. And some men just really freeze up when they're in the being supported seat. They don't know what to say. They don't know what they need. They don't think they make sense. They're all over the place, and sometimes they are. But we have to get through this tough section of feeling uncomfortable and anxious in order to do this work. And a good coach or therapist will know how to attune to you and teach you how to relax your own nervous system so that you can talk about hard things, talk about emotions, past experiences, and they'll know how to work at your pace. So even though I can very much validate the experience of feeling scared, it's not a good enough reason to really do anything that's going to benefit you. That's my mantra. Fear cannot be the only reason why I don't go for something that I really want. If there's another good reason, then maybe. But fear alone, that can be overcome, that can be faced. And facing our fears is what allows us to grow our capacity to just be ourselves in the world. So we don't have to move around and dive and dodge things that are uncomfortable topics, conversations, emotions, people. It sucks if you're out in the world and there's all this stuff that you have to avoid. You're probably constantly on edge. You have to think about what you say before you say it. There's just all this tracking that has to go on instead of just being like, yeah, here's me, here's how I am, here's what I think, here's what I feel, and to not be so burdened with what others think about you or what you think about yourself. That is what true freedom feels like. And this is the final thing that I'll say. Real freedom is being able to bring your whole being out into the world. And the more you can work to grow your capacity to be you, the more free you will feel. And if you don't do this, you will remain constricted, limited, narrow-minded, and life will just keep putting challenges in front of you to try to wake you up and bring more of you out into the world. There's this one phrase that I like, which is let go or be dragged. You can be dragged through life or you can confront it head on. So to go through these again, the 4 reasons why men don't ask for help are: 1, they don't see the need. 2, they don't think it will work for them. 3, you're in a grandiose or one-up position. You think you have all the answers. And 4, you're afraid. I hope this was helpful today, and I'll be on next week. Peace.